There's a gap standing between where you are and where you are called to be. There's a gap between what you know and what you dream. There's a gap between who you've been and who you know deep down you are becoming. But listen, you can't fill what you won't first face. Denial doesn't shrink the gap. Avoidance doesn't close it. The only way to fill it is to face it. Facing the gap requires you to take responsibility, not blame, not shame, but responsibility. It is not about punishing yourself for where you should be. It's about accepting that your future is waiting for you to build the bridge across. Your destiny is not asking for your perfection. It's asking for your participation. Sometimes the gap looks overwhelming. It feels wide and deep and impossible. But that's where faith steps in. Because faith doesn't need a full path. Faith builds while you walk. Faith says, even though I don't have it all figured out, I will take the next step. Fear freezes you, but faith frees you. And when it comes to filling the gap, small steps matter. You won't close it in a day. You won't fix it with a single decision. You fill it by laying one brick, one choice, one prayer, one action at a time. You build momentum in the inches before you ever conquer the miles. Understand this, you are not called to fill the gap alone. Purpose partners will show up. Resources will strength you didn't know you had will show up. But you have to move first. Motion draws provision. Action draws answers. And as you fill the gap, don't forget to celebrate the progress. Celebrate every brick you lay. Celebrate every fear you overcome. Celebrate every moment you chose courage over comfort. Because every little step forward is a testimony that the gap is not bigger than your God, your calling, or your will to rise. You are not defined by the gap. You are defined by the grit it takes to fill it, and you will fill it one faithful, fearless, powerful step at a time. You cannot change what you pretend doesn't exist. You cannot heal what you refuse to admit is broken. Before you can ever fill the gap in your life, whether it's a gap in your discipline, your confidence, your knowledge, or your purpose, you must first be willing to see it clearly. Awareness is not about judgment. It's about truth. It's about removing the layers of excuses, the fog of denial, and standing face to face with what is real. There is no shame in seeing the gap. There is power in it, because once you are aware, you are no longer living passively. You are no longer trapped in a cycle of hoping things will just get better someday. Awareness puts you in the driver's seat. Awareness hands you the map and says, this is where you are. Now decide where you're going next. It's tempting to look away. It's tempting to minimize the places where we feel weak, unqualified, unready. But avoidance is not protection. It's a prison. Every time you refuse to acknowledge a gap, you surrender a little more power to it. It grows quietly in the corners you refuse to sweep. It stretches wider with every excuse you make. Yet the moment you become aware, the moment you say, this is a real gap and it matters, you start to regain your power. The gap itself may not shrink instantly, but your spirit expands, your vision sharpens, your hope strengthens. You begin to realize that the gap is not a final verdict. It's a temporary condition. Awareness invites humility, but it also unlocks creativity. When you know exactly what is missing, you can begin to seek the resources, wisdom, mentors, and strategies that address it directly. You move from guessing to growing. You stop wasting energy on pretending and start investing energy in progressing. You stop comparing yourself to people who seem farther along and start constructing a personalized path that honors where you truly are and where you truly want to go. You stop asking, why me? And you start declaring, why not me? There is something sacred about those moments when you first open your eyes to the real work ahead. It can feel overwhelming at first, like standing at the base of a mountain and realizing just how high the climb will be. But don't let the height of the mountain intimidate you. Let the fact that you can see it inspire you, because seeing it means you have already taken the first step. Seeing it means you are choosing to be conscious rather than coasting. And people who are conscious, who are intentional, who are honest with themselves, those are the people who build real lasting change. Sometimes the hardest part is not the work itself, but the willingness to admit that there is work to be done. Pride can make you blind. Fear can make you hide. But courage calls you to clarity. Courage calls you to look at the gap, not with despair, but with determination. Because if you are willing to see, you are already stronger than it. If you are willing to face it, you are already on your way to filling it. The enemy of your future is not the gap. It's the lie that says ignoring it will make it disappear. Awareness demands that you trade comfort for growth. It demands that you stop romanticizing the version of yourself that only exists in your imagination and start building the version that exists through action. It demands that you give yourself permission to be a work in progress without labeling yourself as a failure. It demands that you believe that gaps are not barriers, they are bridges. And bridges are built when you are brave enough to look at the distance and say, let's get to work. So today, ask yourself, where is the gap? Not where do you wish you were stronger, but where do you know you need growth? Where are the places that make you uncomfortable to confront? Where are the dreams you keep delaying because you feel unprepared? Don't run from those questions. Lean into them. The gap is not proof that you are unworthy. The gap is proof that you are still evolving. It is proof that there is still more inside you that has yet to be built, to be revealed, to be celebrated. And if you are willing to be aware, you are more than capable of filling the gap. Step by intentional step, the gap in your life is not there to punish you. It is not proof that you are inadequate or forgotten. It is your assignment. It is the space you were uniquely crafted to fill with your gifts, your effort, your discipline, and your faith. Responsibility means recognizing that the presence of a gap is not an attack against you, but an invitation for you. An invitation to build, to grow, to become. If you shift your perspective from seeing the gap as a judgment to seeing it as an assignment, you stop wasting time feeling sorry for yourself and start using that time to transform yourself. There is a temptation to believe that if the path was truly ours, it would be easy. That if we were truly chosen for a purpose, we wouldn't feel this struggle. But the truth is, every great assignment comes with a gap, a space between current ability and future achievement, a stretch between today's knowledge and tomorrow's impact. Taking responsibility for the gap doesn't mean you have to have all the answers today. It means you have to own the fact that the gap is yours to address, yours to manage, and eventually yours to conquer. No one else can fill the gap for you. They can support you, encourage you, teach you, but the building is your responsibility. When you see the gap as punishment, you move into blame. You blame yourself, your past, your upbringing, your circumstances. You get stuck in the cycle of if only. If only you had started sooner. If only you had been given more opportunities. If only you had known more, done more, believed more. But none of those if onlys fill the gap. None of them build the bridge. Only ownership does. Only the decision to say, this is where I am and this is the work I'm called to do will give you the power to move forward. Responsibility is freedom. It frees you from waiting for someone to rescue you. It frees you from hoping that time alone will close the distance. Time doesn't fill gaps. Decisions do. Actions do. Responsibility does. When you claim the gap as your assignment, you also claim your authority over it. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a builder of destiny. And builders don't ask the mountain to move. They start carving steps into its side. Owning the gap also means owning your mindset about the process. It will not always be easy. There will be days when progress feels invisible and the gap feels endless. There will be days when the temptation to quit is louder than the call to continue. Responsibility doesn't eliminate those struggles. It reminds you that struggles don't disqualify you. They authenticate you. They prove that you are doing the real work. The kind of work that matters, the kind of work that changes lives, starting with your own. It's important to understand that responsibility is not about carrying shame. It's not about beating yourself up for not being further along. It's about carrying purpose. It's about carrying determination. It's about recognizing that the gap is not an accident and it's not meaningless. It has been trusted to you because there is something inside of you capable of filling it. Every skill you build, every habit you form, every boundary you enforce, every belief you strengthen is a brick laid across that gap, and every brick matters. There is no shortcut through responsibility. It is the slow, steady, sometimes silent work that no one else sees, but everyone eventually benefits from. The fullness of your assignment will reveal itself as you are faithful over the small things, as you choose consistency over convenience, as you choose commitment over comfort. Every choice you make to take responsibility for your own growth, instead of outsourcing it to others, is a choice to honor the assignment you've been given. The gap is not there to mock you. It's there to make you. It's there to pull out of you the hidden strength, the buried potential, the untapped creativity that comfort could never reveal. Responsibility asks you to answer this call. Will you do the work even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when no one is applauding yet? Will you build when you feel tired? Will you build when you feel unseen? Because the reward for responsibility is not just a closed gap. It is a changed you. You were never called to live in the shadow of the gap. You were called to rise, to stretch, to build, to fill it. And when you stand on the other side, stronger, wiser, more powerful than you ever imagined, you will know that it was never punishment. It was the preparation for a life greater than what you had the courage to dream. Fear has a way of convincing you that the gap is a chasm, an insurmountable distance too wide, too deep, and too dangerous to cross. Fear amplifies the worst-case scenario and diminishes your ability to imagine a future where you succeed. It tells you that your inadequacies are permanent and that the gap you face is proof of your inability. But faith flips that narrative. Faith does not see the gap as a weakness. It sees it as a place of growth, a place where trust and belief have the power to fill the spaces fear has made barren. When you stand at the edge of the gap, your natural instinct might be to turn away, to stay within the comfort zone that, fear whispers that if you take the step, you might fall. But faith doesn't ask you to see the full path ahead. It simply asks you to trust that the next step will be revealed as you move forward. It's easy to be paralyzed by fear because it convinces you that everything must be perfect before you can take action. But faith operates differently. Faith says that the perfection is in the process, in the willingness to move despite not having everything figured out. Faith says you do not need to know how the whole journey will unfold. You just need to be willing to take the first step. Every gap you encounter is an opportunity to stretch your belief in yourself and your purpose. It is in those gaps that faith can grow the most. The gap is a space of possibility, the place where you get to choose, will you feed the fear that tells you it's too much, or will you choose faith that reminds you you are not alone, you are not powerless, and you are capable of more than you realize. Fear wants you to shrink, to stay small, but faith expands you. It pushes you beyond your limits and challenges you to believe that the gap is not a limitation, but a place where potential is waiting to be realized. The battle between faith and fear is not a one-time fight, it is a daily decision. Fear will always try to show up, particularly when you step into the unknown, when you stretch beyond your comfort zone, when the path seems unclear. But faith doesn't make the fear disappear. Faith makes you stronger than the fear. Faith gives you the ability to move forward, to trust in the process, and to believe that even if you don't have all the answers, you have the strength to figure them out along the way. Fear paralyzes you by making you believe you have to know everything in advance, but faith allows you to take imperfect action, trusting that your steps will align with your purpose as you move. We all know what it's like to be afraid, to feel overwhelmed by what's ahead, but it's important to recognize that the gap is not the enemy. Fear is. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These are the real obstacles. When you decide that the gap will be filled with faith, you acknowledge that there will be struggles, but you also know that you will be equipped to face them. You will be equipped with courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. It's a quiet strength that says, I see the challenge, I feel the fear, but I choose to trust anyway. You are not called to walk the gap alone. Faith reminds you that you are connected to something greater than yourself. You are part of a bigger story, a larger plan that is working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. Faith reminds you that every step you take, even in uncertainty, is a step toward the growth and transformation you've been called to achieve. And that's the beauty of faith. It doesn't require perfection. It requires trust. It requires you to take what you have and give it your best effort, knowing that even if you stumble, even if you fall, you are still moving forward. You are still growing. So when fear creeps in and tries to convince you that the gap is too wide or too deep, remind yourself that fear only grows stronger when you let it control you. Faith, however, grows stronger the more you choose to feed it. The more you step out and trust, the more you allow your faith to fill the gap. The more you trust the process, trust the timing, and trust yourself, the more you will see that fear cannot hold power over you when you choose faith as your foundation. Gaps are spaces for your faith to build, to grow, and to create a bridge where once there was only a void. And when you walk across that bridge, you will look back not with fear, but with the recognition that the gap was never your enemy. It was your opportunity to see just how much your faith could carry you. The journey of closing a gap is often far from glamorous. It is the slow, consistent work that makes the difference. Too many times we get discouraged because we don't see immediate results. We want the whole bridge to appear overnight. We want the gap to close in a single leap, but that's not how transformation happens. Real, sustainable growth is built one step at a time, one decision at a time. And yes, one brick at a time. Every small effort you make matters. Every small choice you make to move forward, no matter how insignificant it may seem in the moment, is a step toward filling the gap and moving closer to your purpose. When you look at a gap, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the vastness of it. The space between where you are and where you want to be can appear insurmountable. The climb feels too steep. The task feels too heavy. But here's the truth. No one has ever filled a gap by focusing solely on the distance. They've done it by focusing on the next step. They've done it by deciding that progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Every step, every small effort compounds into something greater than the sum of its parts. Small steps matter because they break the work into manageable pieces. It's easy to feel defeated when we try to take on too much at once. The gap may seem like too big a challenge to tackle in one go, and so we freeze, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances. But the perfect moment rarely comes. The truth is, the moment to take action is now. It's not tomorrow when you're ready, or next year when you have all the answers. It's today with what you have in hand, with what you know. And even if you don't have the full picture, the steps you take today are still part of a bigger story, your story. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of needing a grand leap to make a difference. Society often celebrates the dramatic, the fast, the instant results. But real change is often quiet. It's often uncelebrated until the transformation is too evident to ignore. Just because you aren't seeing massive shifts doesn't mean that the small shifts you're making aren't significant. Don't underestimate the power of gradual improvement. It is the repeated small efforts that eventually lead to monumental growth. The smallest actions create momentum. The smallest changes in your routine, in your habits, in your mindset will start to close that gap slowly but surely. Consider the process of learning a new skill. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't become an expert in a field by simply wishing for it. You become an expert by practicing every day. Even when it feels like you aren't making progress, you stay consistent. And over time, you start to see the results. The same principle applies to closing the gap in your life. It's the work you do every day that fills the gap. It's the decisions you make, the habits you form, the mindset you adopt. These are the bricks that build your bridge across the gap. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about staying committed to the process even when the progress feels slow. And here's another important piece. The small steps you take will also build your confidence. Each time you take action, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that you can do this. You prove to yourself that you're capable of moving forward, that you can fill the gap. One small step at a time. That momentum builds on itself. Each victory, no matter how small, strengthens your belief in yourself, and in the process, in the face of the gap, don't be discouraged by what you can't do all at once. Celebrate what you can do today. It might be a small step, but that small step is still progress. Over time, those small steps add up. They accumulate into a foundation that you can build upon. It's like laying bricks to build a house. Each brick might not seem like much on its own, but with every brick you lay, you're one step closer to completion. Remember, every step you take is a step away from where you were yesterday, and every step forward is one step closer to where you want to be. Trust in the process and trust that consistency is key. Don't rush the process. Small steps done consistently over time will always outpace grand gestures made in bursts of effort. Real success is not built on momentary bursts of energy or dramatic shifts. It's built on the steady, persistent work that happens every single day. So, the next time you look at the gap and feel discouraged by how far it seems to be, remind yourself filling the gap happens brick by brick. Every action counts. Every choice matters. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something every day, even if it's just a small step. And in time, those steps will lead you exactly where you need to be. Setbacks are not the end of your journey. They are simply part of it. They are not signs of failure, nor are they proof that you're not meant to succeed. Setbacks are the tests of resilience. They are the moments when you get to decide, will you stay down or will you rise again? Resilience is the ability to bounce back when life knocks you down, to face adversity not as something that defeats you, but as something that strengthens you. Every setback you face is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are not defined by your circumstances, but by your response to them. The road to filling the gap is never a straight line. There will be twists, turns, and obstacles along the way. There will be moments when things don't go according to plan, when you face resistance, and when you wonder if it's even worth continuing. But here's the truth. Setbacks are inevitable, but they are not permanent. Just because you face a setback today doesn't mean you'll be stuck there forever. What matters is how you respond. Will you let the setback define you, or will you use it to fuel your growth? Resilience is about persistence. It's about being knocked down and getting back up time and time again. It's about not allowing failure to become your identity. The world will tell you that setbacks are signs you're not capable or that you should give up. But resilience says this setback is part of the process, not the end of it. When you build resilience, you build the mental and emotional strength to keep moving forward, even when things feel hard, even when things feel uncertain, and even when you want to quit. It's important to understand that resilience isn't something that you're either born with or not. It's a skill that can be developed just like any other. The more you face setbacks, the stronger your resilience becomes. Each challenge you encounter builds your ability to persevere, to adapt, and to keep going. Resilience is not about avoiding failure. It's about learning to keep going in spite of it. It's about maintaining a sense of hope, even when the circumstances around you seem hopeless. A critical part of resilience is recognizing that setbacks are not a reflection of your worth. They are simply obstacles to be overcome, not defining moments of your character. Just because you stumble doesn't mean you failed. Failure is not falling down. Failure is refusing to get up. It's quitting before the job is done. Setbacks give you the chance to reset, to reframe your approach, and to come back stronger than before. They help you learn, grow, and refine your skills. One of the most powerful things about resilience is that it teaches you patience. The road to success, to filling the gap in your life, takes time. There are no shortcuts, but resilience teaches you that time is not your enemy. Time is your ally. Resilience is about trusting the process and being willing to keep showing up, even when the results are not immediate. It's about trusting that your efforts will eventually pay off, even when you don't see the results right away. When setbacks occur, the key is to not internalize them. Don't make the setback a reflection of who you are or what you're capable of. Instead, treat setbacks as stepping stones. They are part of the larger journey, part of the unfolding process of transformation. Every time you encounter a setback and get back, you are building the muscle of resilience. Every time you refuse to let a setback define your path, you're showing yourself how strong you truly are. Resilience is also about flexibility. It's about being able to adapt when things don't go as planned. The gap you're trying to fill may require you to shift strategies, to adjust your approach, or to pivot in a new direction. Being resilient means you don't give up just because things didn't go the way you thought they would. You adjust, you learn, you move forward with even more wisdom. Life is unpredictable, and things will not always go according to your perfect vision. But resilience allows you to roll with the punches, to be flexible, and to keep working toward your goal, even when the path isn't exactly what you envision. In every setback, there is a choice. You can choose to see the setback as a failure, or you can choose to see it as a lesson. You can choose to let it defeat you, or you can choose to let it make you stronger. The gap you are trying to fill is not an obstacle. It is a journey. And setbacks are just bumps along the way. They are moments where your resilience is tested. And if you choose to rise, you will find that each setback only makes you more prepared for the next phase of your journey. Remember, resilience is not about being invincible. It's about being willing to keep going, even when you don't feel like it, even when the world seems against you. It's about knowing that no setback is permanent, and that with each step forward, you are closing the gap. With every challenge you overcome, you are building a bridge to your future. And that bridge, built with resilience, will carry you across the gap, step by step. Perspective shapes everything. How you perceive a situation can be the difference between feeling defeated or feeling empowered. When you stand at the edge of a gap, whether it's a gap in your personal growth, your career, your relationships, or your goals, the way you choose to view it will determine how you navigate it. If you see the gap as an insurmountable obstacle, you will approach it with fear and hesitation. But if you see the gap as a place of opportunity, a space where growth and transformation are possible, you will approach it with courage and determination. The power of perspective lies in its ability to transform your experience of the gap itself. It's all about mindset. A gap isn't just a void between where you are and where you want to be. It's a space filled with potential, with room for you to grow, to learn, and to evolve. The way you frame that gap, the way you choose to see it, determines whether it will be a source of discouragement or motivation. If you view the gap as an overwhelming negative space, it will feel like something that is working against you. It will seem impossible to overcome. But when you shift your perspective and see the gap as an opportunity for progress, it becomes something that propels you forward rather than holding you back. One of the most powerful shifts in perspective comes from realizing that the gap is not a reflection of your inadequacy. Often, we look at the gap and assume that it shows how far we've fallen short of our goals, how much we have left to do, or how unprepared we are. But in reality, the gap is not about what you lack. It's about what you have yet to discover about yourself. It's not a sign of failure, but rather a sign of what you are capable of achieving. The gap exists because there is still work to be done, still potential to be realized. The fact that the gap exists means you are on the path to something greater. Another crucial shift in perspective is realizing that the gap doesn't need to be closed in one giant leap. We tend to get discouraged because we expect dramatic progress, immediate results, success. But the gap is filled in small steps through consistent effort over time. It's the power of incremental progress, the tiny everyday actions that, when repeated, add up to significant change. If you focus on the gap as one large, overwhelming challenge, you can easily become paralyzed by it. But if you break it down into manageable steps and approach it with patience, the gap becomes something that can be filled slowly, steadily, and with purpose. The power of perspective also means being able to see setbacks as part of the process. When you experience a setback, a failure, a mistake, or a delay, it's easy to think that you've lost ground. You might see the setback as proof that you're not capable of filling the gap, or that the gap is just too big. But perspective allows you to see setbacks differently. Instead of seeing them as roadblocks, you can view them as stepping stones. Setbacks are opportunities to learn, to refine your approach, and to grow stronger. They don't erase the progress you've already made. They simply prepare you for the next phase of your journey. There's also the perspective shift that comes from realizing that you are not alone in facing the gap. Many times we look at others and assume they are more equipped, more capable, or more fortunate. We compare ourselves to others and measure our progress against theirs. But the truth is, everyone has gaps to fill, everyone faces challenges, and everyone experiences setbacks. The difference lies in how we perceive and respond to those gaps. When you stop comparing your journey to others and start focusing on your own path, you give yourself the space to move at your own pace and to fill your gap on your own terms. Your journey is unique to you, and the way you choose to approach it matters more than any external comparison. Shifting your perspective also means embracing the gap as a necessary part of the process of growth. Growth doesn't happen without a gap. If there were no gap, there would be no reason for you to stretch, to push yourself, to step outside your comfort zone. The gap is what propels you forward. It's the space that invites you to rise to the challenge, to discover new strengths, and to unlock new potential within yourself. Without the gap, there would be no growth. The gap is not your enemy. It's your invitation to evolve, to become more than you were yesterday. Ultimately, the gap you see will be the gap you create. If you approach it with a mindset of limitation, then it will remain a source of fear and frustration. But if you approach it with a mindset of possibility, if you see it as an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more capable, then it will become the vehicle for your transformation. The gap is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be embraced, to be used as the stepping stone to your next level of success. When you change your perspective, you change the way you experience the gap. You no longer see it as a chasm that separates you from your dreams, but as a bridge that connects you to your future. And with that shift in perspective, you can fill the gap step by step until you are on the other side, stronger, more capable, and more confident than ever before.